All right. Welcome everybody from the headquarter offices here in Modesto. Welcome to Luna Fires episode 120. Welcome Instagram, welcome YouTube, and welcome Facebook. Hey, today we're going to be talking about the skill number one in your business. Okay, the number one skill that you should be completely aware. And as I'm sharing it, go ahead and let me know down below what is your take. Right, this skill that I'm talking to you about is a skill that many people don't like, or they either basically obscure it by using titles, using categories, or using profession names and things of that nature. So like communication, like negotiation, like for instance, being an attorney, or being a nurse, or being an executive, or being a CEO, or whatever it is, right? We always have title names or profession names, and literally the skill number one that I'm about to reveal, you're already doing it. Whether you agree or disagree with it, that's fine. It's a skill that you've been doing it unconsciously, some of you consciously, but it's a skill that literally, to me, is considered the number one. And if you don't consider it the number one skill in your life, you will pay the price either way. Either you become extremely well at it, or you are not willing to do extremely well at it. And either way, there's a price to pay. So therefore, let's go ahead and get started. You let me know what you think down below. So the number one skill that I'm talking about, it's the sales skill. All right. Do you agree with that? Sales. Now, sales is the number one skill in your business, in your life, at anything. Now, do you agree with that? Let me know down below. Now, let's talk about sales. Many people are already doing it, because doesn't matter what you do, you're always selling. Even from the point that you were born, you are selling. As a kid, we always sell to our parents, the ideas that of how we want things. We either want a toy, or we either want candy, or we either want to go with the friends, or things like that. And you're either selling time because you're working, on a time basis, or you're selling an idea, or you're selling a product, or you're selling a service, or you're selling something. But I promise you, you're selling, even when you don't think that you are. Now, some people love sales, and maybe, less than a third of the world, but, many others hate sales, not understanding that the number one skill in life, it sells. Everything goes through sales. Now, you may be thinking, of a different type of sales, maybe like, shoving things down the throat to people that don't need what you're currently selling, or something like that. But let's go through 5 master ninja tips that, it's going to enlighten you, and it's probably going to give you a little bit of food for thought so that you can actually grasp it better. Right? So let's go ahead and get started. Master ninja tip number 1. If you haven't bought what you're selling, you're not going to sell. Bottom line. And this includes you, by the way. In other words, the biggest sell that you're going to do is not even going to be the product, service, the company, or whatever it is that you're selling. It's going to be yourself. If you don't feel that, that you can do extremely well, if you haven't bought yourself, it's going to be ultra difficult to try to sell yourself. And in the business that I'm in, which is real estate investing, guess what? I get to deal with real estate agents, with real estate investors, with contractors, general contractors, with title companies, with attorneys, with lenders, private money lenders, hard money lenders, you name it. Don't you think that you ought to buy yourself so that you can obviously extremely sell well yourself to others? So it's very important. All right. Now, that's Master Ninja tip number 1. Let me know what is it that you take. Master Ninja tip number 2, not selling. It's also a form of selling, just in reverse. Do you agree or disagree with that? In other words, if you say, well, Raul, you know what? I've never liked sales. I've never liked to sell, and I don't plan to sell. Well, guess what? You just sold yourself in a form of selling, not selling. It's a form of selling. It's just in reverse. Whenever you're going to say, or whatever you decide to do, like, nah, I'm not going to buy that. You sold yourself. Oh, I'm not going to do this. You sold yourself. I'm not gonna, participate in this part of sales. So just understand that when you decide not to sell, it's also a form of selling, whether you agree or disagree. Ninja tip number 3: the conviction that you have regarding your product is more important than the conviction that others have, okay, about facts or figures. In other words, what is your product? My product is myself, in this case. Now, because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. If you're a real estate investor, the product is you. It's not real estate. Many people get it confused. They think, oh, it's real estate. Real estate investing, the product is real estate. No, the product is not real estate. Your level of confidence, your level of an ability of sales, it will depend on, if you have that skill very well fine-tuned. And if you don't, the good thing is that you can actually master it, that you can refine it, that you can become better. Do you agree with that? Okay. So having that said, your conviction of your product, okay, the conviction of your product is much more important than whatever other people believe about facts and figures. Okay. So super important. Do you agree or disagree? Let me know. Master Ninja tip number 4: be so sold. Okay, be so sold, so convinced, so committed, okay, to the company, product, service, yourself, that you believe it down to the bones, that it will be ridiculous, terrible for the buyer or the other party to do business with somebody else. Now that's when you know that you have it inside of you, because you so decided to buy yourself so that other people know how committed you are. Do you agree with that? Yes or yes? Let me know. All right. And this is going to take us to number 5, master ninja tip number 5. Many people think, hey, Raul, the thing is that I don't know how to sell. I'll give you the 5th one, which should be a breeze. See, the fastest way to selling is knowing what's the number one problem of the other party and solving their problem. I'll give you an example of when I started real estate. Here in Modesto, California, in my second decade, after messing it up really bad in my first decade, from, basically going bankrupt, losing my, license as a real estate as a real estate agent, and so on and so forth, because I had bad partnerships and things of that nature. It's interesting because, in my second decade, I had to start from bare, from ground zero, or even worse, because ground zero is like you're at zero. Well, I was like below zero because I was basically freaking broke temporarily. Now, understand this. There's a guy that is a real estate broker here in the Valley who happens to be also a real estate investor. And I remember basically sharing and asking him, hey, listen, Mr. John, what is the number one problem that you have as a real estate investor? And I pay very close attention. And he said, the number one problem is I don't have enough great deal flow deals that make sense. I don't have enough deal flow. I got the cash, I got the funds. I just don't have the real, the real deals that make sense. I said to Mr. John, Mr. John, what if I can solve that problem? What if I can basically bring you deals that I'm going to put under contract under my company name, and then I bring you those deals that truly make sense? Okay. Now, what if I solve you that problem? I bring you the deals that are making sense based on your criteria, based on your parameters. Okay. Will you actually back me up with capital? Would you back me up with capital? Now, understand this. You see the silence that there is right now in the room? You know how I know that the silence becomes so in-depth? Is when I know something triggered in you that maybe before you were not seeing it. See, I went to John not to solve my problem, but I went to John to discover his problem, solve his problem, And in turn of solving his problem, I was going to solve my problem. See, majority, what you do and why you fail so bad is because you go with the mindset of what's in it for me first. What problem do I have that I want to resolve first? And the reality is this, you know, if you switch it, everything changes. In my case, the only way I had was by, solving his problem that I got my problem solved. But I was precise. I was clear. I needed to understand his problem, and I needed it to prove that I was going to do it. How did I prove it? I proved it by me having the ability, developing the ability to finding great real estate deals that later I brought to him, that I sold to him. And when he saw it that I was able to do it with one, with a second, with a third, guess what happened? Trust got built more and more and more, to the degree of being able to be backed up not only by him, not only by his capital, but by many people's capital. The reality is this: if you don't sell and if you don't buy yourself, how do you pretend to solve other people's problems? In my case, I had to go out to the market, find a problem that I can solve. And in this case, I wanted it to solve a problem that someone, had, that they had the capital and the wherewithal to back me up. Hopefully you got it. So congratulations for being here with me today, and just make sure that that you let me know here down below, what is it that you take of today's social media life here. All right. Anyways, a virtual hug from wherever you are, and always remember that there's always a better way. There's always more, and truly, at the end, it really just depends on you. See you next time.